It seems Khairul Jamaluddin is connecting. I'm not sure if you are able to, but I can see you are attempting. And welcome to Oscar, Miguel Martinez, to Thomas, and Annette Colmos, because we have two Annettes. So it's 1 o'clock and a bit more, and my name is Klaus Monosblit. Welcome, I'm the moderator of this session 2 today from the flipped IRSPBL 2021 series. This session is entitled Teacher's Role in PBL, Encouragement and Support for Teachers Using PBL. And this about providing, motivating, relevant, updated teaching in PBL. Educators, well, some of them need practice and continuing education, support, courses, etc. Because it might be like creating projects that are authentic, ill-structured, how they're connected to learning objectives, that is very difficult. While for others, it is something they need once and then they got the idea and keep working on it. We have two papers in this session. First, Mary English will address how to support teachers in scaffolding a project design process in PBL. And second, Annette Grunwald will address the continuing education of teachers in primary and lower education by providing a PBL model of continuing education. And I am at least interested in seeing what about the opportunities and challenges when training, educating, supporting teachers. And what about the others? Do we care about them, or should we focus on the ones who are actually requiring this? So once we finish the presentations, we will move to panel discussion. We have a huge panel of 2, and the authors will have opportunity to question each other and comments, etc. And of course, the participants will also. So the first presenter, Mary C. English from the Northeastern University of the United States, will talk about or talk with the title Tools for Scaffolding Educators Project Design Process. And I need to get back to everything here. So welcome. And I don't have to click anything now. It's all in the hands of Mike and Mary.
Okay, should I go ahead and share my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome everyone. As mentioned, I'm talking about tools for scaffolding educators project design process for PBL. So quickly, the challenge that we were faced is we needed to come up with a structure process to help faculty conceptualize their courses and their course projects. They had minimal course design knowledge and no PBL knowledge. So what we came up with was a process for three tools, and we used the frameworks of backward design, concept mapping, and a skills framework called self-authored integrated learning, also called SAIL. So the 3 tools to support the project design process were, first of all, a worksheet where they came up with potential projects, and that had some prompts that were designed to ground them in their own discipline, because sometimes that gets lost in the mire of textbooks and curriculum and what needs to be covered. So we wanted to reground them in, like, what do people in your discipline actually do, and what are some of the issues that people face there, and what kinds of questions are they trying to answer. So from there, they came up with some potential project ideas. And then building on that, there was another worksheet that they identified what the key disciplinary knowledge and skills of the course would be. So looking at the course outcomes, but also separating from that a little bit because there can be so many course outcomes and some of them are not exactly relevant. So we wanted them to just identify, like backward planning process, the big ideas or the key concepts, and identify a preferred project based on that. And then also think about some of these cross-disciplinary skills from that SAIL framework that I mentioned that the students would need to complete the project, and really just again narrowing that down to a small field to focus on. And then from there, building out a project concept map so they would show the relationships among all these different pieces. So we asked them to start first with what would be the evidence of learning for this project. How would students demonstrate that they actually got the knowledge and skills that you wanted them to get? And we then from there had them identify criteria for success, and break down what those knowledge and skills were and into smaller pieces. And then from there to think about how they would scaffold the learning. So there's a lot there. And from all this work, they created what we called a design blueprint. And then from the blueprint, they extracted pieces into their course syllabus. So how these tools support PBL through a facilitated process. We use them to support the conceptualization of the course project. And this is especially new for teachers who are new to course design and or project-based learning. And these tools can be leveraged though to support teachers at any educational level, so K through 12 as well as higher ed. And then this bonus slide on PBL and engineering education, I saw a direct connection between the SAIL framework, which are a lot of these cross-disciplinary skills, and this ABET requirement that's shown on the slide, that they want students to be able to receive a broad enough education to understand the impact of their solutions. So to think holistically, thinking about ethical responsibility and economic, environmental, and societal impacts as well. So that's what the SAIL framework is about. And I think that PBL naturally supports these kinds of perspectives.
Okay, thank you. And the next presentation is by Dr. Annette Grunwald, and it's titled Using a PBL Perspective to Continuing Education for Science and Mathematics Lower Secondary Teachers. So, Annette, the screen is yours.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Hi, everyone. As you can see, we have been a big group making this study and article. Henrik Wormruth is also here. Yes. For the international audience, a short background information about Danish teacher education. The teacher education is a 4-year program at university colleges, and in the natural sciences in Q9 we have 4 specializations in grade 1 to 6, science and technology, and in grade 7 to 9, biology, physics, chemistry, geography. And the same specialization we have in mathematics, 1 in primary education and 1 in lower secondary education. A new teacher graduate program, a Master of Science in STEM teaching. This education started in August 2020. You can see more details here in this link. There's some special in this education. It has been developed in a cooperation between universities and university colleges. And the teaching is carried out parity between universities and university colleges, say teacher education. This is a 2 years program, and the study is a feasibility study to identify continuing education needs of science and mathematics teachers and student teachers. And we took a look in the qualitative part of the mixed method study, and the problem population was whether and how problem-based learning was being emphasized as desirable content areas for continuing teacher education. We find different content areas. You can see them here. PBL and investigative competences are one of them, combined with engineering. And we have interdisciplinary integration, both science, STEM, science and technology, and mathematics. There's a big focus on authentic problems and the integration of external learning environments. And the teachers are very interested in to develop their own practice. We have these 6 Pbl principles. They are most applicable in lower secondary teaching. The visible in the data are problem orientation, project organization, the integration of theory and practice, and participant direction. This has much more to do with motivation, pupil motivation. PBL, as said, a desirable focus area. Some teachers are not, they cannot face a need for further education in this type of Master of Science education, but of course they want to take courses. This is an overview about PBL related topics or didactic related topics: engineering design, information communication technology, interdisciplinary teaching mentioned, and the teachers are very interested in to immerse in academic topics such as education for sustainability and technology and so on. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you to both of you. First, let me ask and see what some need for clarification regarding the presentations. Anyone? And yes, you can prompt me through the chat, but I would prefer that you raise the question by your own mouth. So if also some of you are already now with the video, you can raise your hand and I can possibly take that as it. So Annette Kolmos, you have a question?
Yes, I just want to learn something more, Mary, about the sale concept and why you developed that, because the presentation was very short and it has to. But
Yes.
it always leaves a lot of questions. So
yeah, that's a great question. Is it okay if I share my screen again, Klaus?
yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sure.
I will pull up the sale website. Can you see that okay? So this is an open website. You can peruse it later. Under About Sale, you'll see there's a selection for the sale framework, and that details what's in the framework. So this was developed about 5 years ago, And the reason is because Northeastern is really prides itself on experiential learning, and we wanted to bring skills that are often under the surface to the surface more and really focus on them with intentionality, because first of all, employers say that these kinds of skills, the interdisciplinary skills, are even more important than than the student's major and what they're learning there. So we wanted to make sure that our students are leaving with these skills. So we have this framework that we developed that has these 5 dimensions: intellectual agility, global mindset, social consciousness and commitment, professional and personal effectiveness, and well-being. And each of those dimensions contains a set of skills like shown here. And these things that kind of look like outcomes, we don't call them outcomes, but they could sort of be incorporated into courses as outcomes. But a lot of the time we talk about these because we really want students to get in PBL, get the systems thinking and get the complex problem solving sort of mindset, and thinking about different cultures and different backgrounds and global impacts of decisions. So global mindset is a good one, and also social consciousness and commitment. We talk about some of the same things there, systems thinking, but also the importance of networking, being inclusive and civic minded, and so on. And then professional is a lot of these kinds of skills around planning, strategic thinking, time management, and well-being. We don't want to forget that one, but we talk about that a lot as well, and encourage students to take care of themselves, and faculty too. We talk about this quite a bit. Does that help?
And this
Yes.
is accessible for everyone, this page?
Yes. Yeah, this is
I know-
just a general website. There's a login button up here, but that's for the platform. We actually have a platform, pretty complex, that students use. And we have all kinds of things that are happening on campus mapped to this framework, so that when they partake in opportunities, they see their skills experience growing visually. So that's what the login is for. It's for that platform, but the informational website is open. Anyone could visit it.
Can I continue to ask a question, Klaus? Is that permitted?
Yes, you can. I was just going to ask you if you had further short questions.
I have. So these are some skills, competences for your students to gain.
Yes.
How do they learn? What are you doing? And the reason why I'm asking is that at Aalborg University, we now do what we call a progression of PBL competences and put in reflection moments throughout the process. And our students, they have, before they graduate, they have to develop a competence profile. So what are you doing here, and how do you make sure that students are learning these skills, competences, or whatever we call it?
Yeah, so one thing to note is that we don't actually assess the students on development of these competencies. We called it self-authored integrated learning for a reason. We really wanted the students to own it and to focus on their own personal growth and development. And, it's really impossible to assess these skills because everything happens in context and everything is relative when it comes to these skills. So it's hard to say what proficiency looks like because it really depends. So we don't assess it in that way, but we have, so as you can see here, there's some visuals that show how they're growing in the dimensions. We also have one that shows for each skill. So what happens is so as they take a course, that course has been mapped to this framework. So it'll say, here are the 5 skills that we're focusing on in this course. And here are how the dimensions are going to be worked with. And when they complete that course, they see it on their visualizations. They see the increase in those dimensions and those skills because the course was mapped to it. So we're not claiming that they are skilled in that skill or proficient in it. We're just saying that they got experience in it. That's how we talk about it. So the things that they do, though, to interact with the material, are they do reflections, or as you call them, moments as well. We call them moments. They're little mini reflections, and there's both a mobile and there's a web app available. So they record moments that can be tagged to these dimensions and skills as well. We have what we call calibrations, which are self-assessments. Each one has 4 questions about that particular skill, and it helps them learn what the skill is all about. So critical thinking, for example, it might say, did you compare possible solutions with other, previous solutions or something like that? I'm just making that up. I don't remember what that one's about, but there are 4 questions that the student will walk through to see kind of how they're doing, and they can take those calibrations or self-assessments as many times as they want. There's also something called My Story, where they can make a concept map with all the information they have collected about themselves, about their skills development, and seeing which skills came from which opportunities. They can sort of drag and drop and make a concept map so that they can use that to prepare for an interview or something like that, or they can use it within a class.
So these are obligatory for students.
They're, in most cases, it's not required. I mean, courses do have some assignments built in, but it's all just optional for them on how they want to use it for the most part.
Is it
Okay, and
optional for the faculty to build it in, or is it optional for students?
It's not optional for faculty, but I mean, the courses all have to be in the system. However, there are ways to bulk add, a lot of courses. So sometimes department administrative personnel will do a bulk upload based on the faculty will say, here's kind of what I'm looking for, and they'll do it so that it gets taken care of. So some faculty are more invested in it than others.
And
Okay.
do the teachers have to be trained somehow to, well, kind of have this in their program?
Yeah, we have a lot of resources on the site that give them ideas for how to use it, but we also early on, we were offering a lot of trainings, a lot of live in-person workshops, and then over time we stopped offering so many, and we just are relying mostly on these resources now. Yeah, so it takes a long time for a university of this size to become fluent in this language and understand. It's because it's a very complex program, not just the technology, but also the framework, because there are 52 skills, and a lot of that looks like foreign language to people. They're not used to talking about those things. We found that our co-curricular people, those who work more in student development, got it immediately, and really we worked with them initially to get it incorporated because they embraced it automatically. They were already familiar with the concepts.
Okay, so I suggest we return to the actual title of your paper, where it's about the support and the training of teachers for this design, where this is a part of it.
Yes. So.
And I was wondering about those teachers who participate there. Are there specific deliverables during this training program?
Yes. So we meet about every other week during the fall and spring semesters, and during most sessions, they have to show up in the session with a deliverable, with something that scaffolding the process. And a lot of it is these worksheets and the concept map. And then also at the very end, the main deliverable is a course blueprint, which details out really like what the specific learning objectives or outcomes are, what the students will do, what those skills are that they're focusing on, how they're going to assess it, and so on and so on. So they create this blueprint, and then from that they can create their syllabus. So they have to we really focus on the blueprint, and each week or each session where we meet is usually one section of the blueprint is due. So we walk them through that.
Okay. I was wondering now to jump to Annette Grunwald and ask.
Klaus, there is a comment also from Hiro Nori.
Yes, it was a, let me see, it is, come on.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, he is a
yes, it
comment
is
to,
connected to
it is
robot proof.
connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's very similar concepts because, yeah, he really is suggesting that students be more skilled in some of the human side of life and not relying totally on machines.
Mm.
And those skills are incorporated in that framework. And we're also talk about it.
Yeah, Mary, the participants in your program, you told me earlier that it's about 5 to 6 in each batch when you do this training. Are they new staff or experienced staff or a mix?
We've had a mix. It's mainly we end up getting experienced faculty, but we have had some newer faculty as well. The reason I think we get more experienced people is because they already have worked with our service learning department a little bit, because this one is service learning focused. So I think that draws them in because there's a relationship developed. I think I've found that with these cohort programs, you very rarely get random people showing up. It's usually people that you've established a relationship with, or someone that you have a relationship with has referred them to you. That's what we have found.
Okay. And at Grunwald, who are the participants of the program that is running now?
The participants of the program, yeah, they are teachers and some teacher students from all over the country. The program is designed in a way that you can take the education. It's not depending on where you live, because we made a decision that the teaching is in Odense, and
In the middle of Denmark.
In the middle, yeah, in the middle of Denmark, and a big part of the program is online teaching. Of course, now it's the case everywhere, and there is a practice. Practice is a big part in the education. So the teachers, students, they work in practice schools. In the case they have 2 years full-time education, or there's another possibility to take the program in 4 years in half time, where you are where you work at your school and have study time in the other half time.
Are there
Yes.
any kind of results or interesting experiences so far? Now that program has been running more than 1 semester.
Yeah, Henrik, maybe you can see. I have been part in the group where we developed the course, but right now, just now, I'm not a part of the group following the education.
Yeah,
I can add a little bit to it. Yes, I can add that
yes,
there
please.
was 27 students started in August, September last year. And according to the last info, that was about 20 that finalized the semesters only, what is it, about 3 weeks ago. And they're different. I think of the 27, I think 5 of them just continued their teacher education and took the master just after they have finalized their bachelor. And a lot of them are taking it as a full-time study. And the experience, and that's quite interesting, I think, that is what we see is the same problems that we know from our students. Highly motivated students when they start, and but there's been cases where it's been difficult for the student to work in the groups in the way that's been planned, and different expectations in the groups, and when do they cooperate? They're from different parts of Denmark, and the expectation about how many hours do we use for the study can have been a little bit unrealistic. So I think that the change in level from the professional bachelor to the master, I think is something that needs to be scaffolded more in the future. That's the first experience that we got from it. And then I think we will have it, the first semester has been mainly, I think, Copenhagen, and together with the University College in Copenhagen, the third semester will Aalborg University be more involved in. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can see
Okay, and
Mette
Hessel is
yeah.
here. If you have anything to complement this with, Mette?
Well, I've really only been involved in the first phase with the wishes and expectations of the prospective students. So I haven't been involved in the actual program. So I don't really have much to add, but I think it's interesting that your observation, Henrik, is that what's causing this relatively high dropout is group dynamics, if I understood that, and then the level. Were you saying that they see the level as too challenging compared to the bachelor?
And I think there are many. I think there are many difficulties during this COVID-19, and I think that there's been some challenges, and we have not been involved in the first semester, so there could be some more details. But I think the expectations, I think, are something that needs to be worked with, as to my knowledge right now. So, but we are preparing for the next semester when we have it here, so I think that would be very interesting to follow. But I think, yeah. I think that's we know it from the students that the challenges are the group expectations, contracts, and so on. So I think that's also a good lesson when we're looking at not only students, young students, but all students, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my point of view is only from the expectations prior to implementation, and I'm based in Silkeborg in Jutland, where there's no activity in the program at present. So I know what they asked for, and of course, I don't know now with the COVID lockdown. Like you say, it's the sort of the same situation everywhere. But they did mention geography during the interviews as an important factor, and the possibility to have physical contact in the groups as well, and that has been challenged by the way the first implementation has gone. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, we have a question in the chat from Antonella Lotti. Antonella, would you say something? I guess Annette Grunwald already has been reading it.
Yes.
No,
please, Antonella.
Yes. No, I heard a presentation about the continuing needs, and I was wondering if I have well understood that. I was wondering if there are already teachers using problem-based learning and project-based learning in primary and secondary schools in Denmark, and if they use project-based learning in secondary schools and primary schools. I would like to know if they use the model that they use at the university, semester-long project or shorter, like, I don't know, in Ann Lambert's experience in North Carolina in the United States. And also if they use problem-based learning in classes, in some class, how many students are in a group and how many groups in a class, and if a single teacher can be a facilitator for all the class, because I suppose that in a class there are 20 students, 20 pupils.
Annette?
Yeah, yeah. Also, we have, of course, the teachers, they are working with inquiry-based learning in science teaching, and problem-based learning is something new in primary school and lower secondary school. We have a few model schools in Denmark. They are working with project-based learning and problem-based, but this is part of this new Master of Science in STEM teaching. The module in the third semester, the Technological Innovation Science, this is called. In this module, we want to learn teachers to work project or problem based, and here we also have a project over the whole semester. So in primary school we have projects, of course, but they are short. 1 week, it's the most common period. Yes.
But in secondary schools, does that include like our HTX program, the technical gymnasium, technical high schools? What is their model of PBL in Denmark? Annette or Henrik?
Yeah, Henrik Mest.
Yeah, they have it in some of the courses in the HTX. They use a kind of PBL almost the same as when the students come to the university in Aalborg. They say we know everything about it because we had it in high school, but then it's more light model of it, and then they're not exactly using the same concepts, but the idea is the same. So some of the high school students have a kind of PBL model working in some of the courses. In a course called technology, they use it a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Antonella, was that fulfilling for your questions?
Yeah, a little bit. I would like to know if it's possible to have a reference. I don't know if you have some English papers about project-based learning in Danish primary and secondary schools.
Yeah, we can take a look. I don't know if we have English.
I think
Yeah.
we can find some if you
Yeah.
if you send a mail, I can find some for you, Antonella.
Okay, thank you. I will write to you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and of course, the other participants, you're welcome also to raise questions, raise a hand. As we heard from Mary, these are small. It was like 5-6 teachers per year who enroll in the program. And here in the Danish program, it was 20 some who was involved in getting a master program. So it's quite different to have some design training and then to have something which goes a lot deeper. Do you know something about how to attract so many in the Danish program? Do you have an idea why so many are interested? Annette, Henrik, Mette. Mette has a finger, yes?
Yes, based on my interviews with, or our interviews with the teachers, I'd say that the expectations to secondary school teaching in particular has changed. The curriculum has changed quite a lot over the years, and a lot of in-service teachers experience a need to well, particularly increase perhaps the content knowledge on. So in Denmark we have specialists in aspects of science. We have teachers trained in biology, physics, chemistry, and geography. But now they're actually implementing a project, problem-based teaching that's across field science in secondary school. And I think that was one of the issues that a lot of the teachers brought up. They experience a need to have a broader understanding of the concepts.
Exactly, and they also want some other career opportunities. I think in the future, it could be one of the other reasons for going into a master.
Mary, what's really
I
driving?
want to supply Mette because we have a new examination in the 9th class where chemistry, physics, geography, and biology have to make a common examination, and this means this is necessary to have a common hvad er det, undervisningsforløb, altså common lessons, the different subjects involved, and this makes that many teachers are interested in project-based learning and problem-based learning, and we have the integrating of engineering in lower secondary education, and this is another another fact. So this is a very complex, different things making that teacher interested in to get more knowledge about problem-based learning and project-based learning.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to ask Mary was the incentives. Those who participate in your program, do they get a pay rise? Is it because they have some career goals? Is it a drive from their bosses, from their students?
These are all they're very self-motivated faculty members. They are people who care very much about their teaching and just want to improve. So there is a stipend that we offer. It's usually about $1,000, which, you know, when you think about how much time they spend in the program, that's peanuts. It's not a lot of money. So they're not doing it for the money. They're just doing it because they care about their teaching. In our center, our teaching and learning center, we offer workshops that are, you know, an hour to an hour and a half long, but we also offer these cohort programs, and we have multiple cohort programs, and we pretty much always fill them. We have a teaching and learning scholars program. We have the service learning fellows program, which I'm a part of, and that this is focused on. And we have one called teaching inquiry fellows, where they are reading usually a book or a series of articles, and they come back together to discuss, and they create like something new for their course, like a new activity or a new approach. And we also offer reading groups beyond that. So, and they're always well attended. They're just self-motivated folks. I'll put a link in the chat to some of our programs so you can just get an idea.
And the staff that participate in your programs is like PhDs,
yes,
who are researchers, and then also are teaching.
Yeah, that's an R1 university, and these are typically tenure track faculty. Sometimes they're teaching faculty that don't have research requirements, but usually they are the research faculty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so talking about, I see a comment about the self-motivation in the chat. I actually did my dissertation research on motivation to implement PBL, and I did the study with K through 12 teachers, and what I found was like looking at various motivational variables. The one that predicted implementation more than the others was task value, or just seeing a value in it, a personal value. But beyond personal motivation, the biggest factor was having the infrastructure support in the school. That was that's when it happens, when all the supports are there and everyone is supporting PBL.
Philippe, you have, I guess it's a comment that self-motivation is always a main motivator. Do you want to add something to this?
Oh, there's an awful lot to add to this, but I think Mary has done a full dissertation on this. I've done a little bit of research at my university and myself on this, and we came up with the same conclusion, right? It's having the right scaffolding within the organization for lecturers to be able to learn new ways of teaching and learning, especially when they come from a very university-like methodology or background, but then their self-motivation is the main aspect for always.
Yeah,
and there's no need to try to force everyone to try to do it. They will come on board when they see satisfaction of students and satisfaction of staff.
I recognize the lone rider in many that I've met when doing some teacher training programs, and some of the obstacles, the challenges that they run into is that there is a system which is not necessarily prepared. There's students that are not necessarily prepared for what the teachers are going to do with them. So it can be a bit of quite a challenge to be a lone rider, although the self-motivation might be quite high. Is this something you deal with in your program, Mary?
I learned more about that, I think, during my dissertation research, and honestly, we are just getting faculty more into PBL. You know, I mean, through the program they do it, but then beyond that, I don't think there's a lot going on with it. I have done a number of workshops on it, and I think people just see it as a lot of work. And they, you know, I think people see the benefits, some more than others. But it's just tough, I think, for them to get started. So yeah, I think the more you can work with people in groups, it helps.
And
Klaus, I think your question
yes.
leads towards the change management structures, and that's more of a leadership question rather than a teaching and learning issue. There's like on all of that change management process, there is a number of things that can be done to help the group go towards PBL rather than just having one or two.
Yes, for sure. I just met many places where the management was not that ready. Mette, you had a hand before, and then Jette, and then we are going to close this session.
My question has been answered.
Okay. Jette.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for two very nice presentations. I was just wondering, Mary, your concept mapping, and I think that's a brilliant tool for the course lecturers to map what are they actually doing and how can it be brought to any use. are you combining these concept maps? Because you talk a lot about interdisciplinarity too. So are you combining them to see how things match together, how the progression is and so?
Yeah, in some cases, those, when we have them identify which interdisciplinary skills they want to focus on, sometimes those become a box on the concept map. So it becomes a thing that they're really focusing on. And in other cases, they become part of the assessment criteria. So they go into the rubric. But we definitely encourage them to have both showing up on the concept map. And we walk them through that process. I give an example. I use real world or like everyday examples that people can relate to. Like I showed them what a concept map would look like for learning to drive a car and or to play a game of tennis. And so usually they can connect to these things. And it is still hard to translate their work into that often, but I think once they get going, then they really like it. A lot of people have really expressed appreciation for that process. It's a different way of looking at it and thinking about it. And they can understand a little better what it means to constructively align things and what it means to scaffold learning. I think they really get that through the concept map.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Yes, we should leave time for you to possibly change to another session and so on. First of all, thank you very much to the presenters, Mary English and Annette Grunwald. And for further details, of course, go into the papers and address any further questions to Mary or Annette. Thanks for questions and reflections about continuing education of scientific staff, of teachers, whether it be at universities or it be in primary, secondary schools. As I see it, there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of teachers to be trained. And as Philip also was pointing out, it's partly management, but it's a lot of self-motivation. And what we usually in our teacher training program are focused on is that self-motivation, that it's ready, available in all teachers. We just don't meet it in all teachers because there are lots of other issues they have to deal with. Henrik mentioned the COVID situation, but as I've also seen, the more in more than 25 years experience, that a lot of teachers find themselves a bit lost if it's, I would say, too much online. That's still the ability to meet and discuss with others, and to one of the issues that Henrik was raising, this about what are the expectations. And this is not a new issue, but it's an old horse that we have to, or elephant, in the room we always have to address. What are the expectations and what is this program about? Thank you to everyone today. Stay safe, stay well, and have a nice spring here on the Northern Hemisphere, on the Southern Hemisphere as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.